Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. I hope you guys are feeling well out there and having a great end to your work week as we're about to work our way into the last weekend of August. Got you a pretty big update this morning, really talking about, obviously, what's going on in our neck of the woods here in the lower 48. And then we're going to give you a pretty big tropics update because things have changed overnight. Nothing substantial, but the models have latched on to the idea. I don't know if y'all remember me mentioning it over the last few videos of that big blob of convection out ahead of the actual area of interest that the National Hurricane Center has dubbed. But now the models are really starting to latch on to the idea of that big blob of convection actually being the main story in the main development region, which is way out in the tropical Atlantic. And then the GFS continues to go buck wild over the energy in the Caribbean and eventually getting into the Gulf of Mexico. But confidence is low on that. Confidence is, I would say, medium-ish on development in the main development region because now you have all models, all ensembles, was pretty decent to almost strong agreement that something is going to develop. The Caribbean, yes, the GFS is going crazy, but the European doesn't want anything to do with it, which is a very reliable and respectable model. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Now more than ever, in times like this that we're entering, it's a great way to hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Twitter especially. I'm trying to get better with doing constant updates on Facebook. It's not as easy to jump on Facebook and post always, but working a full-time job, keep giving y'all constant updates. It's sometimes it's a lot depending on how busy work is or not. But anyways, if you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. Like I said, subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you haven't. It goes a long way. Really appreciate the growth. And definitely put the prayer requests in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. All right, so water vapor loop, we're going to take a look at the entire lower 48, well, not about 80% of it in the Atlantic Basin. So a little bit different look this morning. So a couple things to talk about. One is an upper level low that's going to promote severe weather across the Northeast. We will talk a little bit about that. And then the Caribbean, nothing going on right now. Honestly, that wave, it just looks like a big plume of moisture. I don't see this wave developing. There was some hints that it might, but the craziness that's showing up on the GFS, as I'm sure you guys have seen, is actually from a piece of energy that's going to shoot off North Africa and run right through the Caribbean. But my eyes, at least, immediately go to this. This already looks like a tropical cyclone right now. It's not even, as of 9:52 a.m. Eastern Time, not even dubbed by the National Hurricane Center. But I almost want to guarantee that this is going to get dubbed some kind of interest here on the National Hurricane Center update here in the next, I would say, 12 hours, if not here in the next hour. But right now it's not. It's actually, still got this area right here. But I've been talking about this and, waking up this morning and overnight, a lot more people are talking about this. This is a big blow up of convection. We'll get another look at that here in a second. But talking about, and like I said, skip ahead if you want to know about the tropics. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. There's not a whole lot going on in the lower 48, but there is going to be some severe storms in the Northeast today. There's a slight risk, so we can't just totally ignore this. Vermont, New Hampshire, the southern New England area, Connecticut, Massachusetts, eastern New York State, slight risk up. And this is because there's an upper level low swinging through, going to promote some active atmospheric players at bay for even a tornado threat. You got a 2% risk of a tornado, 25 miles in a given location in this green area. Wind threat will be there, 15% risk of winds pushing 50 knots or higher in this region. So that's 55, 60 miles per hour and a little bit of a hail threat. So there's going to be a severe weather threat in the Northeast today. Certainly, you're going to hear a lot about it. Probably see some videos, and hopefully it won't be too bad. But excessive rainfall outlook, thankfully, things are somewhat simmering down out there. A slight risk, flash flooding to occur. That's at least a 15% risk. A flash flood guidance being met, which guidance probably isn't that high at all just due to the fact y'all have had so much rain, but still just a stubborn boundary down here. I tell you what, the clouds have been around here in South Carolina for almost 2 weeks now. I don't think we've had a full day of sunshine in almost 2 weeks. But there will be a lot of tropical downpours along the southern sections of the Gulf states. Watches and warnings, not very active at all, except that you still got the continuous flood watches and flood warnings for areas in Mississippi, Florida, and Alabama, the southern sections of the state. And the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, let's make sure there's no update. So still giving this a 20% chance to develop somewhere in the Caribbean. I honestly think that might get dropped soon. And then it's saying still a 20% chance of this area to develop in the eastern main development region. But this isn't that area I was just talking about. That is not this. That is actually this right here. So that's why I'm saying I think sometime today, and maybe here in the next 45 minutes, after I drop this video, of course, I think there's going to be some kind of X introduced here. I do. So let's talk about the lower 48. Like I said, if you're not interested, skip to the tropics, because we're going to give you a pretty decent tropics update in this video too. Latest model guidance and things like that. The southeast today, some showers around already this morning, moist atmosphere, it's humid. And then later this afternoon, probably early to mid-afternoon, more widespread tropical downpours, dumping a lot of rain anywhere from Houston, Texas, all the way through the southern sections of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, all the way into Florida. And some of these will be all the way up here, also in the mid-Atlantic. In fact, more widespread, isolated to more widespread, or scattered, more so, convection showers and storms up here in Kentucky, West Virginia, New York. I'm expecting a little complex of storms to probably form in the upstate of South Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina. It might, bring some stormy conditions to the Greenville, Spartanburg area, for example. But overall, nothing too crazy at all. Now, the Northeast, a little bit of a different story. Upper low swings through, and quickly, by the time we get to about 3, 4 p.m. this afternoon, quickly, some strong to severe storms form. Now, you could get some strong storms in this area over here in southeast Canada and New York State, but I think the biggest threat for severe weather with the kinematics and thermodynamics overlapping, it's not strong either one. The thermos and the kinematics are not at very high levels, but there's still a little bit of overlapping in somewhat of those ingredients. So you got a little bit of moist air, you got a little bit of a spin to the atmosphere. And some of these storms, which are in mountainous areas, could drop a tornado. So do not be surprised if you see a tornado warning up in this area today, but there will be some supercells you need to watch out for. And watch out Massachusetts, watch out Boston. A little bit later, probably this afternoon into this evening, I certainly think you're going to see some stormy weather. And this will eventually congeal more into just like a broken line of storms and move through the down east areas of Maine and then areas of the rest of southeast Massachusetts, for example, throughout the evening and overnight hours. But I think early on, there's certainly going to be a threat for maybe a tornado. So certainly watch out in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts for sure, especially that area. The south central U.S., kind of the same pattern as you've seen the last few days, outside the day where you got a lot of rain, I think Monday and Sunday into Monday. So just some downpours possible. You still are dealing with severe big-time drought conditions here in south central Texas. But the good news is you guys, if anybody in Texas, will have a decent chance to see some tropical downpours, just some scattered downpours are certainly possible in this area. So maybe Austin to San Antonio. Hopefully you guys will get a little bit of rain today. The north central U.S., pretty quiet day. Not a whole lot going on out here. A little piece of energy swinging through the Dakotas. But outside of that, besides just some energy starting to move out the Rockies region of the U.S. Into the Dakotas, Nebraska, Colorado. Pretty quiet day. Not a whole lot going on. Typical late August temperatures, except a little bit above average probably for the Delmarva, the mid-Atlantic areas. Intense heating will occur. You'll get probably into the low 90s in certain areas. But the south continues to be draped with clouds and rain cover. So below average temperatures, but high humidity continues to dominate. But these areas right here in Arkansas, it's going to be pretty warm in Arkansas today. Probably nothing to what y'all seen earlier this summer, but pretty warm day. Kansas, Oklahoma, like Oklahoma City, for example, you guys probably getting into the mid-90s. So they'll probably be some of the warmest portions of the central and eastern U.S. altogether. Nice air mass up here, not too bad. It's just getting to that time of the year up here in the Midwest and the Great Lakes region where, in general, it starts to cool down as you round off summer. Here's your update on the tropics. So this is a different way to look at this right here per the satellite. Notice this is the Eastern Caribbean. This is the Lesser Antilles, and then you start to get into the Greater Antilles and the Caribbean islands in general. This is that blob of convection. Listen, if basically this, to me, there's not really probably I don't know if there's a low-level spin on this. Of course, there's no, recon air missions out here, but it looks like a very strong tropical wave. And believe it or not, as of, like I said, 7 a.m. Eastern time, This has not been dubbed anything, not even an area of interest. But I think things are going to change here in the next 12 to 24 hours. I really do. But this has been looking healthy. It's been basically shouting for our attention for the last 2 or 3 days. I've mentioned it in the last 2 or 3 evening videos that, hey, you know, I haven't really gave my opinion on thinking it's going to develop because I trust the experts. But it is looking good. Now, I don't think it's going to look much better than what it looks right now, probably over the next 4 or 5 days. I don't. I think the air mass right here is very dry, and I think it's doing a good a good job, of creating its own moist atmosphere. But this is actually did not come off North Africa. This is kind of spurred up by the monsoon trough down here, so it's a monsoon trough tropical wave. Either way, it's a tropical wave. But this is a great looking piece of energy out here. And the scary thing is, now I wouldn't say scary, but the worrisome somewhat thing is that here it is. It's now being picked up by models, probably due to the fact that it's continued ongoing convection. So now the models are saying, hey, maybe this is what we need to latch onto. And sure enough, latest GFS, now you're going to see a gigantic hurricane. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second, here in the Gulf of Mexico here in a second. But we'll get into the later part of this weekend. You got a low pressure here. This is still that piece of energy. Meanwhile, you got the other wave behind it. This is just the other wave trying to get going, but I don't think it really ever does. And then here comes that second wave. Actually, this is the second wave. This is another wave. It's a very confusing situation behind this piece of energy. It really is. And here it is. The GFS now completely different from the 18Z GFS. This is the 06Z. This is this morning's run. Now has a strengthening hurricane before it even gets to the Caribbean or the Lesser Antilles, and heading north of the Lesser Antilles. And by the time we get, about 8 days out, you have almost a borderline major hurricane before it even gets into the South Atlantic. So we'll go on and switch this, and we'll look at this a little bit closer here at the Southwest Atlantic. And sure enough, the GFS operational run, here it comes. Here comes this tropical system. At the same time, the GFS continues to be gung-ho about some kind of piece of energy shooting off North Africa and then eventually moving through the Caribbean and getting south to Cuba, getting into the Gulf of Mexico. And at the same time, you have this major hurricane in the northern Lesser Antilles, entering the area of the northern Lesser Antilles. You have a landfalling major hurricane in Louisiana around Sunday morning, around your Labor Day weekend. The GFS has continuously showed a big storm in the Gulf of Mexico, I would say, over the last 2 or 3 days. Well, probably longer than that, but it's just been very back and forth. But it showed something in the Gulf of Mexico for some time now. Now, this is that monsoon trough wave right here. I mean, look at it on the GFS now. Continues to move it through. Luckily, whether it's troughing or whatever it is, picks it up. Now, I would say luckily, but I'm talking about luck, 13, 14 days out, so it's hard to take that serious. But it kind of picks this up and kind of looks like it's starting to push it away 288 hours out. But anyways, it's very far out to really talk about specifics on this. But I'm going to start to talk more about steering currents when I have a little bit more confidence that something's actually going to develop. And I can tell you, we look at the euro, we'll keep going. Here it is, getting into this coming Monday, getting into Tuesday. Like I said, not much strengthening. Not going to talk much about this. We'll talk more about this tonight. Let's focus on this and any energy that shows up from the euro and the Caribbean. Moving forward here it is. And then eventually, when it starts to get a little bit into the Southwest Atlantic, which is this region right here, eventually, as we get into about 6 days out, it takes this little piece of energy, begins to strengthen it into a tropical storm, flirts with the idea of making landfall in Puerto Rico, and then gets into the northern end of the Dominican Republic as eventually maybe a strong tropical storm, low-end hurricane as we get 10 days out. But, we get a little bit closer to this, and here it is, a little bit better look at it. We're getting 8-9 days out, and that is this right here is what that is, but 8 or 9 days away. And you're thinking, well, why does this take 8 or 9 days just to get right here? Well, some guidance is showing from the GFS and the European that this is going to be very slow moving. I just think that lack of steering currents out here, there's a lack of a real push to really keep this going fast. And it's just some slow moving current out here. So we'll watch this. We'll try to figure out what's going to happen. But I tell you, we look at this. For example, we'll stop it right here. 210 hours out. This is next Saturday afternoon. Kickoff college football, everything. Which, I think, it might be an active weekend as far as just the fact that it's the first weekend of September college football, but it might be an active weather weekend too. If you go back and you look at the GFS and you back it up to 210 hours out, same area, it has a strong hurricane, probably a Category 3 hurricane, about to staring down the coast of the Gulf Coast. At the same time, the Euro just has a blob of moisture, not even a tropical storm. So I'm just not very confident on the Gulf storm yet. Do I think, when I go back and I'll talk about what I've kind of reiterated on my last few videos, I'm telling you though, anything that gets in the Gulf of Mexico, it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of shear or not. I really don't. I mean, it's just rocket fuel in the Gulf of Mexico. It really is. I just think that if a decent, strong Vort Max can get in the Gulf of Mexico, you're going to have a risk of a storm. You are. But here it is. When you look at the models, these go out, about 180 hours out, and very strong support. There's no point in really getting in very close to this. This is the EPS Ensembles, one of the most respected model guidance you can look at in the medium to long range. Here's that second wave, but talking about this first wave that's picking up, and you can tell it's picking up from that area right there, from right here. It's picking up on that now. I can tell you that, this is probably 35, almost 40 members out of 50 showing something. So, you take this out to 240 hours out, and, some of these have this closing in on the Bahamas, north of the Caribbean islands, but a lot of this have a path that takes it north of the Caribbean in general. But I can tell you the signal for the Gulf threat has actually went down on the European ensembles. Meanwhile, the GFS still keeps going buck wild with scenarios that show strong hurricanes, a strong hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico around Labor Day weekend. So last thing we'll look at is the icon. This only goes 120 hours out, but in general shows 3 different systems. But, keep your eye on this system right here. Shows a system. So all 3 models right now, agree with this first wave in this area of energy right here that's popping off this morning, by the way. So that's all I got. Stay tuned in tonight. Interesting video. Interesting times ahead. So, but that's all I got, guys. I'm still watching that cold front too. GFS came in even better, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different features to talk about. But I got to head off to work. I'm going to be late again. Haven't been really late, but I've borderline been late. But God bless all y'all. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the support, and y'all have a great Friday.